Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something I've learned through both pain and progress. Your comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. Now, I understand comfort. It feels safe. It feels familiar. It's like your favorite chair worn in, perfectly shaped to your body. But here's the problem. That chair will keep you sitting still while the world moves forward. You see, the comfort zone whispers in your ear, "Stay here, don't take the risk, you might fail." But let me ask you, what if you never step out? What if the very dream that could change your life lies just one uncomfortable step beyond where you are now? Growth is inconvenient, it doesn't knock politely. It breaks routine, it wakes you early and demands effort when you're tired. But here's the truth. Comfort is the enemy of progress, and progress is the price of potential. Look around you. The most fulfilled people, the ones living lives of purpose and impact, they didn't get there by playing it safe. They got uncomfortable, they made sacrifices, and yes, they failed, but they grew. And you know what else? Fear doesn't go away when you stay comfortable. It just masks itself as contentment and later regret. So what do? We choose growth over ease. We say today, I'll do something that makes me uncomfortable because that's where my potential lies. You weren't born to stay where you are. You were born to become more. But to become more, you've got to leave the shore and sail into waters you've never dared before. Break the cycle, step out. Your future is waiting on the other side of discomfort. Let me begin with a truth many avoid. Your comfort zone, while pleasant, is quietly killing your potential. It doesn't make any loud announcements. It doesn't show up with flashing lights or sirens. It just lulls you gently and silently into mediocrity. You know that feeling when you settle into your routine, same job, same schedule, same thinking patterns, and everything feels fine. That's the trap. Fine is not good. Fine is not fulfilling. Fine is a slow death to every dream you once had fire in your heart for. The problem with comfort is it's dressed up like peace, but it's really disguised fear. You stop stretching, stop pushing, stop risking, and slowly, without realizing it, you stop growing. Now, I'm not here to tell you to be reckless. I'm here to tell you to be brave. Because bravery doesn't mean the absence of fear, it means doing what needs to be done even when fear is present. That moment when you feel nervous about taking on something new, starting that business, applying for that job, standing up and speaking your truth, that moment is your invitation. That's the door. And guess what? Your potential is waiting just beyond that door, and you can't bring comfort with you when you walk through it. You see, we all crave certainty. The human mind is wired to avoid risk. But nothing significant, nothing transformative ever comes from staying certain. Every leap in your life, the real ones that changed you, happened when you left the familiar. When you did something that stretched you, that scared you just a little, but you did it anyway. People often ask, what if I fail? But they rarely ask the better question, what if I succeed? What if that speech you're scared to give changes someone's life? What if that book you're hesitant to write touches thousands? What if that job you're afraid to apply for becomes your calling? You'll never know if you don't step beyond what feels safe. And here's the other side of it. Comfort doesn't eliminate fear. It just hides it. It wraps it up in excuses. It tells you you're too old, or you're not ready, or it's not the right time. But those are lies, told by fear and disguised as logic. The longer you listen to that voice, the more you train yourself to accept less than what you're capable of. And one day you'll look back, not with pride, but with regret, because nothing stings more than knowing you could have been more if only you had stepped out. Discomfort is not the enemy. In fact, discomfort is the signal that you're moving in the right direction. Think about when you first went to the gym or learned a new skill. It was hard, it hurt, it was awkward, but that's the process. Muscles grow from resistance, so does character, so does confidence. You don't build strength in stillness. You build it in motion, in challenge, in doing the hard thing again and again until it becomes part of you. You don't need a revolution. You need a habit of stepping forward, even when it's uncomfortable. Maybe it's waking up an hour earlier. Maybe it's making that phone call you've been avoiding. Maybe it's asking a difficult question in a room full of silence. These little moments, these tiny decisions are where your future is made. It's easy to sit still. It's easy to wait. It's easy to tell yourself you'll try tomorrow. But here's the truth. There are people with half your talent living lives you dream about simply because they decided to move while others hesitated. They acted while others made excuses. They embraced discomfort. And discomfort, when embraced daily, becomes growth. Growth becomes power, and power shapes destiny. So I'll leave you with this. You weren't made to stay where you are. You were made to become more, to stretch, to strive, to rise. Don't let comfort keep you small. Don't let fear dictate the size of your life. Decide today to step into the unknown, to challenge yourself, and to chase the version of you that lives beyond your current limits. Because your potential, the real, extraordinary, world-changing version of you is not in your comfort zone. It's just beyond it, and it's waiting. Growth lives outside your routine. It's a simple idea, but its truth runs deep. We are creatures of habit. We wake up to the same alarm, go through the same motions, talk to the same people, and repeat the same thoughts. Our routines are comfortable. They're predictable. They offer a sense of control in a world that often feels uncertain. But here's the truth most people never confront. While your routine may keep your life stable, it rarely leads to transformation. If you're not careful, your routine becomes a box, and that box can slowly shrink the size of your thinking, your ambition, and eventually your life. Think about this. When was the last time you did something for the very first time? When was the last time you tried something new, took a risk, or pushed yourself into a situation that made you nervous? Most people avoid those moments, not because they're lazy, but because they're conditioned to stick with what feels safe. But safety doesn't equal growth. Comfort doesn't create breakthroughs. Every significant leap you've ever made in life, whether it was learning a new skill, making a new connection, or overcoming a challenge, happened when you stepped outside of what was familiar. Routine tells you who you were yesterday. Growth asks who you could become tomorrow. That gap between the two is where discomfort lies. And unfortunately, too many people choose the ease of repetition over the pain of progress. They stay on the same path, even if it leads nowhere. They keep showing up to the same places, having the same conversations, expecting life to change, but it never does. Why? Because change doesn't visit people who won't invite it, and change rarely comes to those who never make room for it. Growth demands you disrupt your rhythm. It demands you challenge your assumptions. If your routine tells you, "I'm not a morning person," growth says, "Let's find out if you could be." If your routine says, "I'm just not good with people," growth says, "Try anyway." If your routine says, "This is how it's always been," growth says, "But does it have to stay that way?" It's in the asking, in the challenging, in the experimentation that real progress begins. Now, this doesn't mean you abandon structure altogether. Discipline is valuable. Habits are powerful tools, but they should serve your growth, not become prisons for your potential. The problem isn't having a routine, it's refusing to ever step outside it. It's when every day becomes a copy of the last, and life becomes a loop instead of a journey. You'll notice something interesting when you start breaking routine. Your mind resists. It says, "What are you doing? This is uncomfortable. This isn't you. But don't let that voice fool you. That voice isn't telling you the truth, it's just trying to protect you from the unknown. The mind loves predictability, but greatness is never found in the predictable. It's found on the edge of your abilities, at the boundary between what you know and what you don't yet understand. Let me tell you a secret. The most exciting parts of your life haven't happened yet. The most meaningful conversations, the most rewarding work, the most profound changes, they're all still ahead of you. But you'll never reach them by living only the life you've already lived. You have to go where you've never gone before. You have to meet people you haven't met, read books you wouldn't normally pick up, say yes to opportunities that make your stomach twist a little. That twisting feeling, that's growth knocking. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Start small, wake up a little earlier and write down your thoughts. Go somewhere new this weekend. Call someone you haven't spoken to in years. Say yes to the thing you usually say no to. Bit by bit, moment by moment, you train yourself to expand. You teach your brain that unfamiliar doesn't mean unsafe, it just means untapped. And in that process, you discover new pieces of yourself you didn't know existed. Talents, ideas, strengths, confidence, it's all there, but it's hiding just outside your daily habits. At the end of your life, what's going to matter isn't how many times you followed your routine, it's how many times you broke it for something better. How often you said, "I'll try." How often you leaned into fear, uncertainty, challenge, and said, "Let's see who I can become." Because in the end, growth never comes knocking on your door. It waits just outside your routine until you're willing to go find it. Fear thrives in comfort. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand attention, and it doesn't always show up as panic or dread. In fact, in the comfort zone, fear wears a mask. It looks like logic. It sounds like caution. It hides behind phrases like "it's not the right time," "I'm not ready," or "what if something goes wrong?" But underneath it all, what's really driving those thoughts is fear, quiet, subtle, and deeply rooted. And the more you stay in comfort, the more power that fear quietly gains. Most people think fear shows up when we take a risk, when we speak in front of a crowd, change careers, move to a new city, start a business. And yes, fear does show up in those moments. But here's the twist. Fear also shows up when you decide not to act. It shows up every time you think about doing something that matters and then talk yourself out of it. In fact, fear is most dangerous when it convinces you that staying the same is smart. It tells you that it's safer to wait, better to prepare just a little longer, or wiser to hold off until conditions are perfect. And while you wait, while you sit in comfort and tell yourself you'll move someday, fear grows stronger not because the danger increases, but because your belief in yourself quietly erodes. Comfort is fertile ground for fear. It's the perfect environment. You're not challenged, so fear doesn't have to fight. It just lingers. It whispers quietly. It doesn't need to be loud because it knows you're listening. And over time, that fear becomes your default. You start making decisions based on avoiding pain instead of pursuing purpose. You start living to stay safe rather than to grow. You might even convince yourself that you're being responsible when in reality, you're just being controlled by a fear you've stopped noticing. You see, when you push yourself, when you step into uncertainty, fear gets exposed. You see it for what it is, not a signal to stop, but a signal that you're doing something that matters. Fear only has real power when it operates in the dark. But when you act despite fear, when you face it head on, it starts to lose its grip. That's the paradox. The only way to shrink fear is to do the thing it's warning you not to do. The only way to build courage is to face the thing that scares you. But if you never leave your comfort zone, you never get the chance to build that courage. You stay exactly where fear wants you, still, quiet and stuck. Think of all the people who gave up on dreams not because they failed, but because they never tried. They stayed where it was familiar. They took the safe job, said no to the challenge, avoided the spotlight, and lived lives that looked fine on the outside but felt hollow inside. Fear didn't scream at them. It didn't have to. It just gently convinced them to lower their aim, take fewer risks, and keep things predictable. That's how fear thrives in comfort, not by terrifying you, but by gently persuading you to settle. Fear, when left unchecked, becomes a habit. You start saying no automatically. You start shrinking from opportunities. You stop raising your hand, speaking your mind, or chasing what excites you. And each time you do that, the walls of your life close in a little more. Your world gets smaller. Your confidence dims, and one day you wake up and wonder, how did I end up here? The answer is simple: fear lived in your comfort, and you made a home for it. But here's the good news: the moment you recognize this pattern, you can break it. You can choose to do the thing that scares you, not recklessly, but intentionally. You can make discomfort your teacher. You can use fear as a compass, because the direction you're afraid to go is often the exact direction where growth lies. You start to build a different kind of life, one where you act not because you're fearless, but because you're bold enough to move with fear beside you instead of letting it stand in front of you. So, if you want fear to shrink, you have to step out of where it's most comfortable. You have to leave the predictable, challenge the routine, and face the unknown. Because in motion, fear has less power. In action, it loses its voice. And in discomfort, you discover that fear was never meant to control you. It was meant to challenge you to rise. Your dream lies just beyond discomfort. That's not just a motivational phrase, it's a truth many people sense, but few are willing to confront. Everyone has a dream. Some are big, bold, world-changing visions. Others are quieter: a better life for your family, the courage to speak your truth, the chance to turn a passion into a profession. Whatever your dream looks like, it's sitting on the other side of the very thing most people spend their lives avoiding: discomfort. Discomfort shows up in many forms. It can be the anxiety of starting something new, the uncertainty of stepping away from what's familiar, the awkwardness of not knowing what you're doing, or the sting of possible rejection. These aren't signs that you're going the wrong way, they're signals that you're stepping towards something meaningful. Discomfort doesn't mean danger, it means change. And where there is real change, there is almost always resistance, not because the dream is impossible, but because the path to it is different than the one you've walked before. People often say they're waiting for the right time. They say they'll chase the dream once things feel a little easier, a little more secure, a little more certain. But that day never comes, because dreams don't wait for your life to feel comfortable. They wait for you to choose courage over comfort. And the uncomfortable truth is that no dream worth chasing will ever feel completely safe in the beginning. There will always be that moment when your heart races, your palms sweat, and your brain starts throwing every excuse it can at you. That's the moment most people retreat, but it's also the exact place where your dream begins. There's something powerful that happens when you step into discomfort willingly. You begin to rewrite your own narrative. You stop being the person who waits and start becoming the person who acts. And with each uncomfortable step, your dream gets a little closer, not because the external world changes, but because you change. You become someone capable of holding the dream, not just imagining it. Look back on your life. The moments that changed you the most, the ones that shaped your character, revealed your strength, or brought you closer to what matters, were they easy? Probably not. They were likely challenging, maybe even painful, but they pulled something out of you that comfort never could. Discomfort is a forge, It sharpens your focus, strengthens your will, and clears the clutter so you can see what really matters. That's why your dream waits beyond it, because only the version of you forged in discomfort is ready to receive it. You won't find your dream in routine. You won't stumble on it while staying busy but avoiding risk. You find it in the stretch, in the difficult conversation, in the leap of faith, in the discipline of doing what's hard when no one's watching. Sometimes it means failing publicly. Sometimes it means being misunderstood. Often it means trying again and again without guarantees. But every time you move through discomfort instead of around it, your dream gets more real. It moves from being a someday to a now, from something you talk about to something you live. Discomfort doesn't go away. Even when you succeed, even when you reach one goal, it comes back because every new level of your life will demand a new level of you. But that's not a burden, that's the gift. Because the pursuit of your dream isn't just about getting what you want. It's about who you become in the process, and becoming more wiser, braver, more capable. That only happens when you're willing to walk through discomfort, not avoid it. The saddest thing is not the person who fails, it's the person who never tries, the person who lets comfort keep them small, who lets fear dictate the limits of their life. Don't be that person. Let discomfort become a signal not to stop, but to go. Let it remind you that what you want most is not in the safety of what you already know, but in the challenge of what you don't. Because in the end, your dream isn't behind a locked door. It's behind a hard decision. A risky step, a moment of doubt that you move through anyway. It's just beyond the voice that says you're not ready. And when you go there, when you step through the discomfort, you realize it was never as big or as scary as it seemed. But the dream, that's real, and it was waiting for you all along. Progress is the price of potential. Everyone wants to fulfill their potential, to live fully, to succeed deeply, to matter. But not everyone is willing to pay the price. Because potential is not handed out freely. It doesn't activate just because you have talent or ambition. Potential demands something in return, and what it demands is progress, not perfection, not luck. Not applause, just steady, sometimes painful, often unseen progress. Step by step, day by day, the idea of potential is exciting. It's filled with promise. People love to talk about potential in sports, in business, in relationships. But the truth is, potential without progress becomes wasted energy. Nothing is more tragic than untapped potential. We've all seen it, the brilliant mind that never applied itself, the talented artist who never showed their work, the visionary thinker who never took action. They had everything they needed except a willingness to move forward when it was hard, boring, slow, or uncertain. That's the gap, and progress is the only thing that fills it. Progress isn't glamorous. It's not loud. It doesn't get a round of applause. It's waking up and showing up. It's doing the work, often without visible results. It's building discipline when motivation disappears. It's pushing forward even when nobody's watching, because you understand that growth isn't a moment, it's a process. Potential doesn't care how inspired you feel. It waits for action. It waits for movement. And it only responds to commitment. You don't get to keep your potential without paying for it in effort. You can't wish your way into a better future. You can't talk your way into becoming who you're capable of being. You earn it, and what you earn, you respect. Every breakthrough, every success, every inner transformation begins with a decision to start. Then comes the next decision to keep going, and again, and again. It's not about speed, it's about direction. Every small step forward, even a shaky one, is proof that you're trading comfort for growth. Here's the difficult part. Progress often feels invisible. You change, but the world around you stays the same for a while. You practice, but the results don't show up right away. You push, but nothing seems to move. That's when most people quit. Not because they don't have potential, but because they can't see the payoff soon enough. But that's the test. Can you keep progressing when there's no guarantee? Can you keep paying the price even when there's no applause? That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. Progress also means sacrifice. You can't take everything with you. You have to leave behind excuses. You have to let go of the need for approval. You have to give up the luxury of procrastination. Potential costs something because becoming more requires letting go of who you used to be. You can't become your future self by staying loyal to your past habits. Growth will challenge your identity, your patterns, your limits. That's not punishment. That's progress doing its job. There's another truth you can't ignore. Not moving is not neutral. Stagnation has a cost. Every day you delay, every day you choose comfort over progress. The gap between who you are and who you could be gets wider. The world moves on, opportunities pass, time doesn't stop. You either build or you decay, you move forward or fall behind. That doesn't mean you rush. It means you decide, you stay engaged, you keep building, and the beauty of it is this: progress, even the smallest kind, builds momentum. One action leads to the next. One win makes space for another. You begin to trust yourself. You start seeing yourself differently, not as someone who's trying, but someone who moves. Confidence grows, not because everything gets easier, but because you realize you're capable of doing hard things. And that's when potential becomes power. So if you're asking why you haven't reached your potential yet, the answer might not be in your ability, it might be in your consistency. Have you paid the price? Have you committed to daily progress? Have you embraced the messy, unglamorous work of becoming? Because potential is not a promise, it's an invitation. And progress is your RSVP. Every action you take says, I'm willing, I'm in, I'm doing the work. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. And when you look back, it won't be the flashes of brilliance that got you there. It'll be the progress, the hard, ordinary, uncelebrated effort that made your potential real. Daily discomfort is a discipline, not a punishment, not a phase, but a deliberate practice, a choice to lean into what's hard, unfamiliar, or inconvenient every single day. Most people think discipline is about routines, habits, and structure. And it is, but at its core, real discipline is about your relationship with discomfort. It's about how often you're willing to do what doesn't feel good in the moment because you believe in who you're becoming in the long run. Discomfort, when embraced daily, becomes the training ground for growth, resilience, and mastery. We live in a world that is constantly selling comfort, fast results, easy options, minimal effort. And while convenience might make life easier, it rarely makes life better. The truth is, nothing truly worthwhile, no meaningful goal, no deep transformation, no lasting change happens without discomfort. If you want to get stronger, your muscles have to be pushed. If you want to learn something new, your mind has to struggle. If you want to grow emotionally, you have to face the pain you've been avoiding. There's no bypassing it. Progress is paved with discomfort, but here's the twist. Discomfort isn't the enemy, it's a mirror. It reflects back where you are and where you need to go. And the people who rise, the ones who stand out, who lead, who become more, they aren't always the most talented or the most gifted. They're the ones who practice discomfort like a discipline. They get up and do the thing they don't want to do, not once in a while, but every day. They build discomfort into their lifestyle, not because they love suffering, but because they've learned that growth doesn't visit the comfortable. Daily discomfort sharpens your focus. It builds mental toughness. It teaches you how to delay gratification and how to sit with tension without breaking. Think about it when you choose to do what's difficult first. The rest of your day gets lighter. When you face what scares you, avoidance loses its grip. Every time you choose the harder path, you make your future self stronger, more capable, more ready. Most people wait for motivation. They wait to feel ready. But discipline doesn't wait. Discipline shows up. It gets uncomfortable and moves anyway. The athlete trains when they're tired. The writer writes when the words aren't flowing. The entrepreneur pitches even after being told no a dozen times. They're not superhuman. They've just learned to expect discomfort and keep going regardless. And that's the difference. People who grow consistently don't treat discomfort like a surprise. They treat it like a companion. They stop resisting it. They stop making it mean something has gone wrong. They know that if it's hard, they're probably doing something right. They've learned to welcome the discomfort of early mornings, of difficult conversations, of taking responsibility, of risking failure not because it's pleasant, but because it's necessary. Discomfort also creates clarity. When you strip away ease, you see what really matters. You stop chasing shallow goals. You stop being swayed by distractions. You start realizing what's worth your time, your energy, your effort. You stop needing applause and start needing alignment with your values, your vision, your purpose. Daily discomfort becomes a filter. It shows you what you're made of. Start small. You don't need to turn your life upside down. You just need to do one hard thing every day, one thing that stretches you. Wake up earlier, say no to the easy excuse, do the extra set, make the uncomfortable phone call, speak the truth instead of hiding behind politeness. The point isn't to punish yourself, it's to train yourself. Because every small discomfort, practiced daily, builds a reservoir of grit. And over time that grit turns into confidence. You stop being afraid of discomfort, you start using it. That's the power of discipline. It's not just about doing what needs to be done. It's about becoming the kind of person who does what's required, no matter how it feels, because feelings are fleeting. But the life you're building, that's permanent. And if you want a strong life, a meaningful life, a life filled with growth, you'll need to get used to daily discomfort. Not just endure it, embrace it. Make it your training partner, because the discipline of discomfort is the doorway to everything you're capable of becoming. And once you build that muscle, there's not much in life you won't be able to face.